So in order to solve these problems, you're going to need a periodic table in front of you. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is radon 222. So you're going to find a periodic table, and your periodic table gives the names of elements. And so you're going to find radon, and the symbol for radon, if you look on your periodic table, it's in the last column, is Rn. So I'm going to fill in the element symbol here is Rn. Now the element name is already given to me, so I can write down radon. And when it's an element name or symbol with that dash number after it right here is the mass number. So I'm going to fill in 222 for the mass number. So I was able to use the information to easily fill those three in. Now for protons. Protons, and I'm just going to jot this at the top of the page here, protons always equals what's called the atomic number. So if you look on the periodic table for radon, you see the atomic number for radon is 86. So atomic number is the number of protons. So I'm going to jot down an 86 there. Since all of these are neutral, and then the protons equal the electrons, so it's 86 protons, which means it must have 86 electrons. So protons and electrons for all of these will be the same since they are neutral elements. Lastly, we're going to do the number of neutrons. The other thing I'm going to jot down at the top of the page is that mass number, I'm going to call that Mn for mass number, is protons plus neutrons. So the mass number here is 222. That was given to me. And I know the protons is 86 because that comes from the atomic number. So when I take 222 and I subtract 86, 222 minus 86, I get 136. So for neutrons, I get 136. The next one we're going to look at here is Na23. So Na, I'm going to use my periodic table. I'm going to find Na on the periodic table, and I'm going to discover it's in the first column of the periodic table, 3 down, and Na stands for sodium. So I'm going to write down the element name is sodium. The symbol is Na, and that number dashed after it is the mass number. So that's 29. So now from the periodic table, Na, I discover the atomic number is 11. So there are 11 protons. For electrons, protons and electrons are always the same for when it's neutral, which is what these elements always are. And lastly, to find the number of neutrons, I take the mass number, 23, I take away 11, and I get 12. So my number of neutrons is 12. The next one I'm going to do is the protons and the neutrons I'm given. So there's 7 protons and 8 neutrons. So I can go ahead and figure out the protons and write that down as 7. The neutrons is 8. I know protons and electrons are the same in an element. So I'm going to also write down 7 electrons. The mass number is the protons plus the neutrons. So 7 plus 8 is 15. So my mass number is 15. Now I have to figure out the element name. The piece of information I'm going to use for this is the atomic number, or the number of protons. So the number of protons is 7. So what has an atomic number of 7 is nitrogen. So I'm going to write down nitrogen. And again, looking at my periodic table, nitrogen has the symbol of N. So that's how I'm going to solve this when I'm given the protons and the neutrons. Now I'm going to continue to the bottom of the page, and I'm given the mass number and the protons. So the protons is 38, so I can jot that down. Since this is neutral, protons equals electrons. So it's also 38 electrons. And my mass number is 87. So to figure my number of neutrons, I'm going to take 87 minus 38, and I'm going to get 49. So I'm going to get 49 for my number of neutrons. So neutrons is 49, mass number is 87, protons is 38, electrons is 38. Now I take my number of protons, because that is the atomic number, and 38 protons, if I go to my periodic table, I discover is strontium, or the symbol is Sr. So I'm going to write Sr for the symbol, and strontium for the name. So that's how I'm going to do this when I'm given the mass number, the protons, and the neutrons. So that first column is a good example. What I would encourage you to do now is to pause the video and try to work on the next column on your own. Then unpause the video and you can check your answers over. So you can see I have the answers there for chlorine. You can check it over. Again, I use the periodic table to find the protons. The protons equal the electrons. 35 take away 17 is 18. I have my mass number, chlorine, and Cl. For F-20, 20 is the mass number. So protons, I look at the periodic table. F has 9, is atomic number 9, so it's 9 protons, which is 9 electrons. 20 minus 11, 20 minus 9 gives me 11 neutrons, and it is fluorine. I use my protons and my neutrons on the next one. 6 protons is the same as 6 electrons. I fill in 8 neutrons, and then my mass number is 6 plus 8, which is 14. 6 protons is carbon, so I write down carbon and the symbol is C. And then the last one, my protons is 1, so my electrons is 1. My mass number is 3, so my neutrons is 3 minus 1, which is going to be 2. So I'm going to have right in here 2 neutrons. The element name, what has 1 proton? That is hydrogen, so I'm going to write down hydrogen, and the symbol for it is capital H.